Welcome, everyone. I want to welcome you to Shared Story. And I'm here finally with my co-host. I know I've been talking about it the last couple of videos, but I am with Todd Civin, the man that is always given. Todd, I got a question for you.
You go.
How did we meet, man? How do
Oh
we
my
meet? Because
goodness. I know
you're on the
exactly.
you're on the East Coast, and I'm here in the Midwest. But I was born and raised on the East Coast. That's where my heart is. But go
That's
ahead, Todd. How do we meet, man?
amazing. You know what? Some things are just meant to happen, and I'm gonna put that in that category. I know exactly where I was sitting. I was in a parking lot outside a Longhorn Steakhouse picking up lunch for my employees in Marlborough, Mass. And I had written a book with Rick Hoyt. Now, Rick was rest in peace. Rick was half of the father-son duo Team Hoyt, right?
Oh,
And you
real quick, where's
purchased
that
a book.
accent from? Where's that accent from?
I don't have no accent.
Yeah,
I don't have an accent.
you're
Yeah, I'm
part of
from
the
Boston, outside
yeah,
of Boston.
you're the 13 original colonies, right? So you guys
Yeah, I think we were number one.
you were number one. Okay,
We
then
weren't the first one, but we're number one. Yeah,
then we're all speaking with the accent. My bad, my fault. Go ahead,
right.
Todd.
You were PA though, right?
Yeah, it
Pennsylvania.
was PA. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it was
think you're
Pennsylvania.
really either you or Virginia is considered the first colony.
Yeah, it could be, could be.
So I had written a book, and you purchased a book. I mean, this is now 2008. I think that we met, or about that. Nah,
I
that's a
would say a
little
little bit
early.
later, about
Yeah.
2010, 11. Yeah, we met.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I met the Hoyts in 2008, and the book came out 2011. It was called One Letter at a Time,
Hmm.
and it moved you. And so I don't know. You're gonna have to remind me because I'm 63 now, so the mind is shot. Um, but I know where I was, and I know the conversation was heavy, deep, and we connected. And it's amazing that we've never met physically. We've never been in the same state at the same time, but connected by the heart and the soul is what we are.
Man, I like to tell people I can't believe we have never met, but it seems like we've known each other all our life. I always tell people it was love at the first talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I fell in love with
absolutely.
Todd Civin at the first talk, and I think I was launching Shared Story back then in 2010 and 11, and we had some talented developers and had a great team. It was more of like writing stories versus talking, and it just wasn't the time, right? It was a
Right,
great
right.
a great thing, and I was ran into the Hoyt story, and just so you know, it's an incredible story, but it ties with everything about what Shared Story is about the human spirit. And man, Todd, and then I saw like Civin's media was in charge of the story and like part of the story. So I was calling up and emailing. You got back to me, and we started talking. I was like, "Holy shit! This guy with this cool accent is just full of positivity and life." And I just remember getting off the phone. I was like, I gotta keep talking to this guy.
If I'm not mistaken, the my employees were upset because their lunch was cold by the time it got back. Because we just sat in the parking lot and we talked. And you're right, we connected. We are all about positivity. Now,
Nah.
let's be real. Life isn't always positive, but your outlook has to remain positive. And that's what I do. We're not going to go political here,
Mhm.
but we just had an event happen that I'm going to be honest, might not line up with my viewpoints. I don't know if I
Mhm.
can say that. I'm going to say it.
You say
But
whatever. Hey, listen,
I,
you can say whatever you want, man.
I know,
We
but
they everybody's talking about free speech, so now
yeah,
we can be as free as possible. But yeah, go ahead.
you got it. But how am I going to approach this? I'm going to approach it with positivity because if you have preconceived notions as to things that are going to happen, whether you're going to like them or not, you're going to be wrong. So you may as well just approach things with happy and try to be happy. Is it sugar coating things? Maybe, but you know what? It works for me. I'm usually upbeat and positive and happy as opposed to being sucking my thumb and saying, things aren't going in life the way I want them to. If you don't
We,
like it, change it.
you know what, Todd? I have to say this to you, man. You have been that, right? Like you've been authentic like that, and I have been up and down. Like man, I've had some people say, "Jose, you lift me up. You've done this. You're like coffee in the morning." And then I've been down in the dumps, man. But one thing I know, every time I'm talking to you, I come in with this positive meter, and then you just take it off the charts. Man, I'm like, man, Todd's on a whole nother level. But I got to share this with you. What
Go.
really hit home with these shared stories with the Hoyts back then, when you had a child with special needs in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, what did America do with the people with special needs? They basically
I use the phrase closeted them.
closeted them and put them in institutions. If you ever
Yeah.
saw that movie Radio, I believe that was when he had
Yep.
him, they had the one coach saw the special needs kid in a chicken shed, if you will. I don't know if I'm saying it, but the father, even though his son, this gives me chills, could not talk or could not move, his son talked through him with the spirit of his eyes. And the doctor said he's going to be a vegetable and told him to put him somewhere. And he said, I just couldn't.
Right.
And then
Right.
and then this guy inspired millions across the world with his story. And one day we will share that, on that.
Absolutely.
And maybe we could talk about that right now. Just kick it off there is like that's how we met through the Hoyt story. And if you could kind of share with that some of the miracles that you've seen from that whole situation and what go there, it touched my heart. So
Yeah, and there's a couple different stories, and I'm going to start off with the one that's not as well known and or popular,
mhm.
but it kind of set the tone for my life, even though I didn't realize this is where I was headed. So in fourth grade, we had to do a term paper, and I wrote my term paper on chapter 766. Chapter 766 is a Massachusetts state statute that allows people with disabilities to be mainstreamed into public schools. So
Okay.
this was 1970. I was 9 years old, and I had an interest in this. So I wrote a term paper. Well, it turns out that Mrs. Hoyt, this isn't as sexy a story as Dick and Rick and their running, but Mrs. Hoyt was instrumental in the passage of Chapter 766, which
Oh
means
wow.
when Rick was 9 years old, because he's the same age or was the same age as I am,
Mm-hmm.
there was the desire to treat her son as if he was not disabled. We don't use the word normal because we're all normal and abnormal all at the
Yeah.
same time. So that's the part of the story that not many people know. But the more famous story is when Rick was in high school. Now Rick was born a nonverbal, spastic quadriplegic with cerebral palsy. The only thing he could control is the side of his head, really. His arms were spastic, so he would kind of,
Mm-hmm.
toss them around. I used to joke with him, however. He couldn't control his arms, yet if a pretty girl walks by, he could slap her on the tush from like miles away. There's some pictures when they ran in the Boston Marathon that
Yeah.
the elite women are running by and Rick's arm is out. Some say because he couldn't control it. I say because he could. Okay, so when Rick was in high school, there was a gentleman on the lacrosse team who was injured, and the school was holding a 5 mile race for him to raise funds. So Rick came up to his dad, and he said, Rick doesn't speak. So I think in those days they had two ways Rick could speak. Ultimately, he spoke with a computer, but I think in this era, in this time, he used what's called the Russell method, named after his brother Russell. And if Rick was going to say the name Jose, somebody would say to Rick, "Is it an A, an E, an I?" Rick would nod his head slightly, and I mean it's an ever so slight. I by itself, J. So you knew the first letter was J. And I'm not
Wow.
going to go into that right now, but ultimately he asked his father if his father would push him in the race. Now, this was before racing chairs. Rick used what's called a Mulholland wheelchair. It's the kind of wheelchair your grandmother uses. And Dick was
Wow.
not a runner. His father was a National Guard, Air National Guardsman. He kept himself in shape. He ran maybe a couple times a week, but he was not a runner. But Rick said to him, "Dad, will you run in this race?" And you know what Rick said, Jose? Yes, you can. He didn't say, yes, you can. He said, yes, I can. Ultimately, their motto became, yes, you can. Anything you put your mind to,
Mhm.
yes, you can.
And how many races did they run, throughout? They did it for what, 30 years, 20
They
years,
did it.
40 years?
Yeah, they did it for, and I'm rusty on my facts of how
But
many
just
years it
roughly.
was, but
Yeah.
they did 1,100 races, maybe 1,200 by the time they both
Wow.
passed away. 33 Boston marathons. They did
Wow.
triathlons. They are the first duo team. That's what you
Hmm.
call it when one
Hmm.
pushes the other. The first duo team to ever finish the Ironman World Championship in Kona, Hawaii. That's 140.6 miles. The
Wow.
first 2 miles is a swim. Well, a swim, Rick's a spastic quadriplegic with CP. How could that happen? His father pulled him in a raft for 2 miles,
Jeez.
hooked to his back with um, uh, parachute cables. Then a 112-mile bike ride, and then a 26.2-mile marathon, 140.6 miles. I want to put something in perspective, okay? The
So wait, no,
average
he did 146 miles,
pulling and
basically
pushing his son.
pulling and pushing his son along, who was unable to move, but only simply enjoy it
He
in
enjoyed
spirit.
every moment. The smiles on Rick's faces are
Wow.
priceless. Now, I'm going to just say something symbolically.
Hmm.
Who pulled and pushed who?
Yeah, and that's
Who
and
pulled and
that's
pushed who?
yeah, and that's the that's what we're trying to talk about, the human spirit, and beyond a failing body, or a body that's not cooperating at birth, you can still inspire and motivate people throughout the world. And it must have raised millions for the field of special needs, and throughout the years as well.
Yeah, but more than that, Jose, it's
Yeah.
he inspired non-special needs people.
Hmm.
The list of letters that Dick and Rick got from divorced fathers who were going to give up, but they saw the love between Dick and Rick and decided to keep on fighting. Alcoholics or recovering alcoholics who saw their story and said, you know what? You moved me. I'm going to change who I am. So it's their story. And again, this is one of millions, billions of stories that do the same thing if we open our eyes and ears and listen.
Yeah. Do you
They
have any of those
inspired
letters?
people in so many different ways. No,
Yeah.
I'm not in possession of anything. The family is, but
Yeah.
the
Well,
go
I
ahead.
think I have a YouTube clip I'm probably going to put down in the comments. But
Yeah,
just getting back to what inspired me, just I have to say this again because it gives me chills. The medical establishment told him basically put his kids in the institution, which wasn't abnormal back then.
right, right.
But he saw the life and the spirit in his kid's eye, his child's eye, and he said, "I can't." And
You,
the rest is history, man. It gives me chills, right? Like,
I work with the disabled now, and I have since the day I met the Hoyts. But
mm-hmm.
here's how I look at it. If you had a car that didn't work, but the engine was still alive and worked, does that car deserve to sit in the garage?
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know if it's a great analogy because I don't know what are you going to do? Push the car? I haven't really worked it through, but
Yeah, yeah.
there's a living, breathing, vibrant soul inside a body that may be broken. Okay,
On the
but
flesh side,
does
yeah,
that
but
soul not deserve to experience the same things that you and I do? If that's climbing a mountain, if that's
mhm.
laughing, if that's swimming in a pool, if it's going on vacation, whatever it is, the person inside the person
Mhm.
should live the most full and active and vibrant life as possible. They're
Yeah.
living, breathing people, and putting them in a closet or in a dark room, you know, the people I work for now, right now, the son is 23 years old. He doesn't experience food through his mouth. Okay,
Mhm.
he's tube fed. Think if I said to you, Jose, that steak you're going to eat, you're not going to taste it anymore. Okay, so there are certain things they can't experience, but shouldn't they still deserve the things that they can experience? Seeing, touching, feeling. So just because your body doesn't work, or in some cases, we're not talking just physical issues. Somebody is having an issue with depression or with mental health, they still deserve to experience life to its fullest. And that's
Yeah.
what the Hoyt story is. That's what so many of these stories are.
Yeah. And I think when you think about stories and inspiration and things of that nature, it reminds me, the Hoyt story just reminds me of like, okay, the spirit can't be broken. You know what I mean? Like the body can,
Yep.
but the spirit can resonate through any broken body, and to appreciate all of us, no matter what we look like, what color of our skin, what gender, what we choose to be, whatever that fucking is, whatever we choose to be, whatever our bodies can and cannot do. But what is connected between all of us is that spirit to be felt, to be seen, to be loved, and to inspire, man. And I'm learning that too. I have a daughter who works with special needs as well. She's a professor for special needs for adults, and she's been doing that since high school. Like she's been wiping people's special needs ass since high school. I'm like, I didn't even know that. She just came home. She's like, yeah, Dad, if they have the period, and I was like, you do that in high school? Like
Yeah.
I was partying, trying to get with the next girl. Like I could not believe that level of responsibility.
Love
But
that.
she said something to me that was really cool, that stood with me, and it kind of goes to, she's like, Dad, I like spending time with them because sometimes they're the most realist person. They're real.
Hmm.
They're, what you see is what you get. And I was like, okay, it's taught me like there's beauty in every community. And that's what shared stories about. We want to unite the world by sharing stories. And we're going to share
Yeah.
all kinds of stories here, from special needs to business to inspirational stories, from people being homeless to running the businesses and whatnot. Todd, it's everybody has a story to tell, man, and
Totally.
someone needs to hear it. And you've written some books on some incredible stories. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. I remember watching a video of a young man. A gentleman broke down crying because he was anxious about a field trip, and one of his fellow students put him in a wagon and pushed him along, and like I guess they met up like 40 years later or 50, I don't
Yeah.
know, 50,
Yeah.
and they were
That's
crying and hugging each other and crying. Like that act of kindness at that age. Holy shit, Todd, could we use some more kindness today? Could we use
Oh
some
my
more kindness
goodness,
amongst each
yes.
other?
Yes, every day. Every day.
Yeah.
That particular story, and again, I don't want to get ahead of us because we can do whole segments on that story. We can have Dave
I,
Clark on here.
I look forward to having Dave Clark, because he's a character and a true inspiration. Look
Yeah,
forward to having in the
Dave.
future. But I just remember watching a video of them meeting, and he was actually signing his book, the
Hmm.
kid that helped him when he
Yeah,
was in school, and he started crying. Can you believe somebody impacted you when you're a kid, and 50 years later you remember them? Holy
it's
shit!
great.
Yeah.
From that, again, we could go so many different directions, but I have a book called "Pulling Each Other Along."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm not going to go into the stories because we have years to do that.
We
But
have a lifetime.
yes, a pulling each other along moment is exactly what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a moments, many moments in our life that somebody said something, somebody did something that impacted us to the point that it changes our life forever, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
can be
Good or bad or
good or
indifferent. Yeah,
bad. Good or oh,
yeah,
absolutely good or bad. But how many stories have you heard that um I was walking in the supermarket and somebody smiled at me and I was going to do something harmful to myself that day, but that person's smile made me decide not to do it.
yeah,
Okay, I've heard that story too many times. Now,
yeah,
that's why it's so important. Hold a door for a person when they're walking behind you.
yeah,
Help somebody across the street. I know it sounds like something we don't do today,
yeah.
but it doesn't cost anything to be kind. To be kind, smile. That's
You
all.
know, yeah, and you're right. I've experienced that exactly what you said, and which leads me to this. I was like, I wanted to share a quick story. It's probably one of the reasons why I'm even here, and I'm so grateful for it. Todd, I joined the military at 17. I don't know. I think you helped write the story. It's Love Believes
Hmm.
in the book, and I wouldn't be here sitting with you if someone didn't see something in me and go out the extra way. I mean, I was in a serious life and death situation. I had made a lot of poor decisions. I was a hurting young kid. I was depressed. I was in a state of being that I didn't care whether I lived or died, man. Now I wasn't going to try to kill myself. But if I was happened to die in the streets, it would put me out of my misery. And man, this army recruiter saw something in me, man. I had a police record that was a mile long, and man, I joined the military. I had a warrant for my arrest. I was just healing from a stab wound that wasn't fully healed. I mean, I was going through some shit, and all because this guy believed in me, man. He saw something in me. He went the extra mile. He looked in my eyes, much like the dad did with Hoyt, on a much different level. But it saved my life, man, and I'm so grateful for it. I'll never forget. It was like a redneck from Kentucky. He came in with my house with dip in his mouth, and then I went into some military. And I got to tell you this, Todd. From the minute that I went in the military, and the first few days was there, we did a physical fitness test. They come up to me and say, Jose, you need to help some other soldiers. You finished in the top 3 in your physical fitness test. And I wasn't like, I partied most of the summer long, but I went in there and was like, oh, I started building my confidence, which I led to meeting my wife, which led to um, buying my home, having a child, paying for my college, and to now getting wonderful mental health care from the VA. Man, the Army has been so great to me. The military, being a veteran, and it all started from somebody believing me. And
Do you think he knows that
no,
he had that
I,
impact on you?
I need somebody's help, definitely from the audience, to like help me find that. I can tell what year I went in and find that gentleman, because he saved my life, man. I have no doubt. I have no doubt, Todd, I would have been dead or in jail. And just the numbers.
I,
My friend that I hung out with went to jail. He's been in jail for 25 or 30 years. My brother got a 24-year sentence. My friend Shorty's dead. We all used to hang together, and it was me. Got into the military with a police record. And he looked past all that. And even my principal said I was unfit for society. But he looked past all those written things, that because you had to get waivers from the police departments, and you had to get a waiver from your principal, and they weren't favorable.
right.
But he looked all past that and saw something in me. And that's why I always believe, like, love believes in people. And I definitely want to start to share that story. Like, we all believe in each other, man, and help each other out. Because the first thing we want to do is judge. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard it, like, you're unfit for society. He needs to be locked up. I heard all of it, but none of them went and got below the skin level. You saw everything on the surface, but you didn't see anything within what was going on in my home life at that time. You might have
Right.
said something like, he's pretty courageous. So, yeah. And here I am talking to you today from that recruiter. I'm telling you.
If anybody in the audience knows a man from Kentucky with chew in his lip, let us know,
Yeah,
okay?
he's a
Because
ginger. Well,
Jose
he'll probably.
narrowed it down. He narrowed
Well,
it down.
no, he's a ginger now. He's got gray hair. I was 17, so I just turned 50. But I look 30. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So you're thinking 30 some years.
What
30
was his
some
name?
years. So he was in his late 20s, early 30s. So he's got to be 60 something. So I'm hoping he's
Do
still
we know
living.
his name?
No, I'm going to go look at my papers, but I
Okay,
hope
that's important.
somebody knows how to get that. But I definitely want to find him and have him on here and just thank him for everything, man. So grateful.
I have a little story. When I was a freshman in high school, I was walking down the corridor. Is that what you
Yep.
call them in Wisconsin or wherever you are? Corridor?
Well,
Hallway?
hallway. Well, yeah, I would say hallway, but I'm from the East Coast, so you can get away
Okay,
with corridor. Yeah,
hallway.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I was a little guy. I was probably 4'8" as a freshman in high school, walking next to my friend Tim, who was probably about 6 feet tall. And this hand reached out of the athletic director's office, grabbed me by the shoulder. And the reason I tell the story about the stature, the size of us, is because I was so small, he could have grabbed anybody in the hallway, but he grabbed me. And he said to me, "Hey, kid, can you write?" And I said in this pre-puberty voice, "Yes, sir, I can write." "Do you like sports?" "Yes, sir, I write sports." Or, "I like sports." "Anyhow, you're going to be our sports reporter. You go to the football game on Saturday. You're going to write sports for us." Okay. So I did. I showed up that day with a pen and a pad, freezing cold. If I remember correctly, it was raining. By the end of the game, the pen I was using wasn't writing. The paper was ripping, but I was a sports reporter. And for 4 years in high school, I would report the story and I'd call the big newspaper and they'd say, "Okay, what happened?" And I'd tell the story and they'd write the article. They'd get their name on the article. But from that, I had my own column in the town paper. I did the same thing for the Boston Globe. I went to Syracuse University to get my degree in advertising, and I've now written 70 books. And if that guy had grabbed the tall guy next to me instead of me, I might have been a plumber. I might have been, I don't know what I would have been. He decided what I was going to be by touching my shoulder that day. So talk about a pulling each other along moment. He pulled me along to who I am today. Now, I don't say, that I always use the phrase pulling along to greatness. I'm not great. I'm good. But he impacted my life without even knowing it. And when he did pass away, I wrote a nice tribute story to share that with other people. But it's indicative of the fact that you make an impact on somebody sometimes just by a kind gesture. He didn't know what he did, but he did it. You're muted. No,
Oh,
you're
thanks,
not.
Sal.
Yep.
When I think about when I have this little rhyme, or I say Todd Civin's the man that's always given, and at that particular time when I introduced you in my life, I was really at a low point, and I don't know if I was giving more than enabling, but it felt rare to have somebody give to me and not expect something, and it was just you touched my heart that way. When I think of my handfuls, I think about Andrew, yourself, and a couple other people in my entire life who's given and more than taken, and I'm like, man, this is a real blessing, and I'm very grateful for that. I was like, yeah, you got to share this world, and I look forward to going on this journey with you as we kick off Shared Story. This podcast, I don't know where it's going to go, but I know one thing: I'm going to have a lot of fun sharing stories with people from all over the world, and hopefully we make this place a little bit brighter.
It's a goal.
And we start to unite people, because some of the incredible things that we did when we first launched Shared Story. One of the things I remember is the Ainsley Angels.
Mm-hmm.
They were a beautiful couple. Where were they at in the
No,
East Coast, right?
they were out of Virginia.
Yeah,
And
Virginia. Yeah,
it
and
was a father-daughter.
yep,
Ainsley since passed away, but the
yes,
beauty of that is Ainsley's Angels it's a running group,
yeah,
but it is nationwide and it is strong, very strong, and it's all now in the spirit of Ainsley,
yeah.
who and that's just beautiful too.
They could never complain. I gotta add something beautiful. The Ainsley Angels shared the story, a beautiful story, and I remember there was a young couple out of Alabama, and two walks of life, and they shared that their daughter had just got diagnosed with the same disease, and I think Ainsley was in her 12 years old at the time, 11. I don't know what age, but
In that group.
but they were sharing stuff back and forth as parents, and they were like helping each other, and I was like, man, Todd, this is it. This is it. This is uniting the world by sharing stories to let them know, hey, man, you live on this side of the railroad tracks and you live on this side of the railroad tracks. Instead of judging you, oh, shit, you have these issues too. You have these wins in your life as well. It was like, that's it right there. You know, it's like you start to humanize all communities. And that's where I'm excited for Shared Story, because right now, man, depending on what community you're in right now, it's not looking good. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I think of it again, an analogy.
yeah.
You throw a pebble in a pond, right?
Yep.
And this is where it hits, but the water waves, I don't know what they are, sound, or the waves spread out, boom, 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 boom. That's what can happen.
Yeah.
Okay, that's we drop something in the water, and let's see where it goes. You said, I don't know where this is going to go. I have news for you, buddy. I don't know what tomorrow brings, or the next day, or the next day. We think we're supposed to know how life is scripted out. Nobody knows except him. Okay, so with every endeavor, don't know where it's going to go, but we're going to keep it positive. We're going to keep doing it. I said we're going to keep it positive. No, we're not. Hard talk. Sometimes it's going to be tear jerking,
Yeah.
but communication isn't always pretty. I say that with my wife when we get in a disagreement and we say things that we didn't want to say. Maybe we did want to say them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Communication's not always pretty.
Yeah. And I think too, just being authentic, right? Like I want to be in a space where I can be myself and not try to, not try to be somebody I'm not. And you're right. Life is about ups and downs. And that was the problem that I had, Todd.
Share with
I
me,
can
buddy.
be deeply depressed inside, but still light up a whole fucking party, man. You wouldn't even know,
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, you know what? I'm down and out. Let me go process those feelings and why, right? And not cover them up, just be authentic. It's real, and I think this is the spot to be it right here. Everybody can be themselves. No matter what their nationality is or income level, whatever they do, they bring in. That's another thing, man. I just, what my greatest success is I've been through all income levels in my life, and I've remained the same person.
That's
I'm gonna
beautiful.
say that again to you, Todd. I have been through all income. I remember my accountant goes, Jose. He was such a square guy, man. I enjoyed firing him. He's like, oh, Jose, do you know you're in the top 3% and you're only 27 years old in America? That is just the blah, blah, blah. And like gassing me up and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? My neighbor, where his wife and him make $30,000 a year combined, says, Jose, you're a really nice guy, man. If I knock on your door and need a ride somewhere, you go take me there. And he goes, you make all this money and you're just humble. It's like, dude, I don't care if you're an asshole. If you knock on my door, I'd tell you not to knock on it anymore.
Right.
And so
you'd probably still give him a ride.
yeah. Well, yeah. No, I don't know. But probably not. I probably would. But the point is just being grounded in love, man, despite whatever your income level goes. And I shared that about the Ronald McDonald House, where you can be that way, and that's what I want to do, because I think there's a hierarchy here. I don't know if I'm saying that
Hierarchy.
right.
Yeah,
hierarchy about how much money you make, and then you start to look down at those people.
Right.
Which
if
makes
you're not
me
if you're not a nice human being. You said something too. Oh, just depression.
Yeah.
I don't think it's uncommon for the depression struggler to light up a room and be down inside.
Yeah.
Because again, as givers, and that's what we are, you and I have categorized ourselves as givers and not takers. Even if we're feeling down, we don't ever want to take from somebody else's joy. So as a giver, you know what? I'm not feeling myself, but I
Hmm.
gotta still continue to give. And that's a heavy load to carry. You know,
Hmm.
sometimes as a depression struggler, you say to yourself, you know what? I just want to cry. I don't want to feel good today.
Yeah,
But then
yeah,
your family comes in and you go, "Hey, how you doing?
yeah,
Everything's cool here."
yeah.
Right? It's not uncommon. Um, but you know what? Every day we try to get better than we were the day before. And so again, we don't take this walk alone. For every person who's feeling what you might feel or I might feel, there's 1,000 other people there feeling the same way.
I just shared I posted our introduction to Shared Story, and I did our first story. It was called I Saw Heaven. And somebody posted a comment on Facebook is like, thanks for sharing this, Jose. You don't know how bad I needed to hear that. And that, I was like, okay, that's what I'm doing it for, you know?
Yep.
And speaking of doing it for, Todd, I don't know about you. I've had all kinds of professions. And one of the things that led to my depression is it's like when you're good at things in life, I mean, military, Fortune 500, owning my own business, and you're good and you do it quick and you just better than your peers at all these things, but you still have this longing and this emptiness. It's like, man, life has to be more than this. You feel lost. Like, what am I doing? And Shared Story gives me such a purpose in life, man, that I've been wanting to do for a long time, Todd. And to be honest with you, I feel like I don't know if you've ever felt like this, but I've had this incredible gift to lift people and inspire people. And I've had this popcorn trail. People would say, Jose, you touched my life. And I would just run from that shit, man, because that's such responsibility. You mentioned that earlier about, somebody says, hey, man, you did this and you helped save my life. I've had somebody say that to me before. Now you think I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, I don't even remember you. You know what I mean? Like I've had that people say, I don't remember even talking to you. Right. And I'm not trying to be rude, but then you think about, you say, God, you're giving me this kind of like gift with my tongue to lift people. I don't want that responsibility. Fuck that. I want to go do this. I want to use my tongue to manipulate people. I don't want to be part of this responsibility, but yet that emptiness is still that soul still burning, saying, Jose, I've given you this gift. And you're not here forever. What are you going to do about it?
Okay, that's important to remember.
Yeah.
That's important to remember. Sometimes things come so easily to us, right? You and I are together because we have the ability to express our emotions and our feelings verbally, right? And we
Yeah.
think, oh, that's easy. Anybody can do that. No, they can't. Okay. So let's just suppose, and again, I don't, I know what I feel. I don't know what I believe. No, I don't know what is true. I know what I believe. Let's assume that God gave Pavarotti the gift of being able to sing opera. Okay. He didn't develop that. I mean, he did develop it. He practiced hard, but let's say God gave him that. Boom. Here, Pavarotti, that's your gift.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume that the gift that you and I were given was this ability. Well, we that's our obligation. That's what we are here to do. Is that too heavy to carry? I don't think so. Just be.
Well, yeah,
Just
I think,
be.
yeah, just be. And I think too, like, I always think about this. I'm going to have this conversation in heaven with Jesus, and we're playing cards. He's going to say, Jose, man, I gave you these gifts. And he's like, what did you do with them? I want to be able to unwind the scroll of things positive things that I've done with my gifts from the heavens all the way to the earth. And I feel like I've allowed those gifts to be in a silo and they're ready to come out, man. So, and I just can't think of a better person who we can light up the world and love and help unite the world because we are, let me take this back, to unite the world because we have an opportunity to do so.
Correct.
And
That's all.
I look forward to collecting stories from all over the world with you and then sharing them with people
You
in
got
a
it.
way that's never been shared here on podcasts. So
Yep. Yep. Um, I lost my train of thought because you were eloquent again. Uh,
Listen to me. When we're talking,
oh,
you can only use 3-syllable words.
okay. You're good. You're good.
There you go.
Um,
There you go.
I'm not much of a reader, despite the fact that I write books. I don't read a lot, and
But you
one
have
of
a
the
great vocabulary. I'm a reader. I read every day. So like you have a very good vocabulary. Mine's 3 syllables or less, you know?
okay, I read a book that only has 6-syllable words in it, so that I can impress you with my vocabulary. Okay, no,
Okay.
seriously. So
Yeah.
one of the few books I've read, I read Mitch Albom because they're short. You know,
Okay.
five. I mean, Tuesdays with Maury,
Hmm.
uh,
Oh yeah, I read that. My
First
daughter
Phone
had
Call
me to
from
read that.
Heaven.
Yeah.
But one of the stories, and it's about this, is the 5 people you meet in heaven. Okay, the 5 people you meet in heaven. Guy dies. I don't remember the whole story, but guy dies, and when he's up in heaven, he meets 5 people who impacted his life. Okay, and one of them I remember. Again, bear with me if you read the book because I'm kind of winging it
Yeah.
here.
We have our own interpretations,
Yeah,
right?
he worked in a circus, or he was
Hmm.
at a circus or a
Hmm.
carnival or something,
Hmm.
and he meets a person who I believe was in trouble that day, and with a glance, with a single look, they locked eyes, and whatever. Oh, I'm such a bad storyteller right now. Whatever happened in that brief moment changed that person's life. So when he's up in heaven, he sees this person. Person did just what you said. I didn't even know I changed your life,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
did. And so it's these brief things that happen in life, assuming that that book is true,
Mm-hmm.
can have an impact on somebody's day, somebody's week,
Mm-hmm.
somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about in the book I want to say oh, don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. Okay,
Hmm.
you pull up to a stop sign and somebody cuts you off
Yeah.
and they drive off. You're pissed off the whole day because somebody cut you off. And that person who cuts you off doesn't even know they did it. They just drive on and everything is good. So basically, cliche, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's it in a nutshell. It's am I going to let this person ruin my day? Or conversely, somebody smiled at me. I wasn't doing well. You know what? Let's turn the frown into a smile, or whatever that cliche or saying is. My kids used to say to me, Dad, cut the shit with this chicken soup for the soul stuff. But that's how I live my life. I try to be positive. I try to be happy. Believe
Mm.
you me, not every day is
Yeah.
incense and peppermint,
Yeah.
but but
But
it's
you're able to choose the higher version of yourself
I
despite
try.
what's going on, and
I
I
try.
admire that because I'm gonna tell you something, man. This tongue can lift, but this tongue can cut deep, and I have some people in my life, man, who are definitely trying me, man, and I'm just ignoring it. I'm like, you know what, Jose, choose the higher version of yourself, man, because at the end, you don't want to feel bad if you go that low,
Mhm.
and I
Don't let
admire
the
that
buzzards
about
beat
you.
you down. Don't let the
Yeah,
buzzards beat you down. That's what I always say. It's,
yeah,
we don't, Mr. Cliche here, walk a mile in another man's shoes. Maybe some of these people behave a certain way because of the misery that they're going through in life. Now, that doesn't excuse them from behaving that way, but
yeah,
it helps you to understand why
yeah.
somebody might be a dickhead.
Yeah, I read this book called The Four Agreements. It says don't take anything personal from someone because that's what they have going on, how they treat you, right? And I used to do that because I used to always be like a people pleaser. I want people to like me, and then they treat me a certain way. Well, they got shit going on in their life, and it's like, I'm learning in life is Jose, you don't have to take it personal. I don't have to retaliate because that's how I grew up. It was especially in the streets. It isn't like the corporate world. You disrespect somebody, you better be able to ready to handle that, and
Yeah.
including with your life. And So just learning to just say, "Hey, Jose, it's not. Don't take it personal. It's their own battle." And that, you think about too. I think about with the whole election too. There are people on the highs right now and the lows, and I will tell you this, and I'm just saying from experience, if you're unhappy with yourself and angry within, it doesn't matter who wins the election. It doesn't go away until you heal, right? Until you
Right.
really start to choose the best version of yourself. It still resonates. You will still find a reason to fucking hate life and then spill that out on people. You
Yep.
really will,
Absolutely true.
And a lot of times I think too is like America has sold itself as the opportunity to build your dreams and make money. And I got to share this quick story with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you ask somebody coming over here and say, "Yeah, I'm coming over here to make money, the opportunity," now you got to think deeper than in America. I got to share something with you. In Wisconsin, there was a white business owner and a black business owner. And this black business owner was the statistic, been in and out of jail, been shot several times, didn't have a father in his life. This gentleman this construction company comes from a legacy, stable parent. He went to a high school. He never really saw black people out of Union Grove, Wisconsin. And somebody from Racine, Wisconsin, they started the business together. I got to share this with you, Todd. Listen, I'm going to paint this picture for you. They took a picture under the United States flag. It was a black guy and a white business owner, and the professional photographer was a Mexican taking the picture for him. And I sat back and I kind of walked away and I cried. This is the first time that I ever understood what United States of America was. And I've served in the country. I've been in the military and the army and all of that. And that's what it's about right there. And I wish that is the presentation that we give about America, not just you can come make money here, because who wants to be like, I personally, Todd, I don't know about you. If somebody says, "Hey, Jose, man, I heard you're the money guy here. I want to go make money," and they come at me every day, that shit gets old. I don't know about
Yeah.
you, Todd.
Well, nobody comes after me for money except my wife, which is so untrue. I was trying to be funny. My wife controls our money, and I love that about her.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not the guy to go for money. But what you just painted is beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a big why in my life, is why do we judge people based on the color of their skin or their whatever it is? Once again, we're going to talk about the fact that it's the soul inside the person that's important. It's not the color of the body that they inhabit. It's no different than when we were talking about the disabled person. And it also ties into, you don't know what's going on in a person's life. I was blessed to have been born, I think this is a blessing, white middle class in America. Okay? I didn't choose that. This is where I ended up.
Mm-hmm.
So I often think, the child that's born into an orphanage in another country or whatever, somebody less fortunate than me, they didn't choose that either. So why should they be looked at differently? They're penalized just by the hand they were dealt. Now, again, you hear stories, people can overcome that, but those stories are few and far between. If the deck is stacked against you, it's awful darn hard to overcome. Just like you hear people who were given everything, born with just money, good looks, wealth, and they blow it.
Yeah.
So it's, I guess it's a combination. It's the hand you were dealt and what you do with it. Sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm contradicting myself.
Well, it is. I think about, all walks of my life, where I have lived in America where my basic needs weren't being met as a child and as a teenager, excuse me. And it wasn't because, my mom, she worked hard. And then I've been in income levels where I can buy whatever I want, do whatever I want in the world. And
Which is better?
For me,
Yeah.
um, that's a great question. I would say this. Well, I want to answer which one was I more less depressed. I was
Okay.
less depressed having no money and chasing it than when I got to the mountaintop. So to speak, meaning that owned 10, 12 properties, had a lot of money in the bank, had $1 million business, and I'm sitting there. I just got back from Puerto Rico, and I couldn't even get out of the bed for like 2 weeks, man. I would just have my president sign checks. I wouldn't even come in. I was like, because there was no bigger TV to buy. I already had it, and man, could you, that's where I was really scared. And a lot of people work their asses off is because I had to look myself in the mirror, Todd, at that time. So that was the toughest one when I had money because I had a president running the company. And then I looked in the mirror. I was like, I don't like the company. It's not the people that work for me. I didn't like what I was doing for business, the company itself. I didn't like the partnerships I had with some of the Fortune 500 companies. They had changed management. And I wasn't a good husband. You know what I mean? I wasn't a good family man to look myself in the mirror because I used to brush my teeth and never look in the mirror. And I was like, shit, you wake up. So yeah, man, that was the toughest part for me.
We're gonna
Yeah,
go into a thing that I don't know the answer to,
yeah,
but depression.
yeah.
Do you ever accept the fact that it's chemical and it's not a lot that you have any control of, or do you just insist on beating yourself up because um, you don't always manage things the way you want to?
Well,
What if it
um,
was? I always think, what if it was diabetes? Do you get
yeah.
mad at yourself because you're short or have an abundance of insulin?
Well, um, that's a great question, Todd. For me personally, now everybody's experience is different. I saw my parents in states of anxiety and deep depression. More mom in depression and my dad and mom both in anxiety. They were both raised fucked up. I mean, there's no questions, and they did a lot better than what their parents did. The best of the ability. It's taken me a long time to say that because I had a lot of anger towards them, man. It really has. For me, it was learned. I wouldn't see my mom smile, man. She would hide in the bedroom, the stress that was on her, and so I say some of it's learned, yeah, and then yeah, you can add some other variables to it. What you eat, your environment, the stress of your job. There's a lot of other things, but for me, I'm just speaking for me.
Yeah.
It was learned, and I'm working on unlearning it, and then one of the things that stepping from depression is anxiety. They just put like a little clip in my ear and said, Jose, you're in flight or flight mode. I said, I'm just sitting here. And they were like, well, that's not good because your body's producing chemicals. Because I would have stuff going on with me, and the doctor's like, I don't know how this happened. Your blood work is excellent. They would tell me that all the time. And I was like, I don't know how this is happening. Now I found out that I was in flight or fight mode. I've been like this since I was 10 years old.
Really?
So a lot of that too is just your environment, the way you live. Going from my childhood to gang banging in the streets. That's very, very anxious, right? One wrong move to being in an army, which is anxious too. You're constantly being tested. You're in wartime zones. You're shooting weapons that can take out half a. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm closing my eyes. So a lot of it is from just experience and growing up, and it's like, how do you move forward with living your best life through those situations? And that's tough. And that's what part of shared story is, Todd. Like we can share our stories of what's going on in our lives and be vulnerable, so then we're not alone. And that is, I always thought it was just me going through these battles, man,
No, it's
in
everybody.
life.
It's
Yeah.
everybody.
Well, it's everybody, but everybody's in. You're right. It's everybody, but everybody's in different stages, Todd.
Sure.
I knew that's like, oh man, this. If the wind blows and they're having an anxiety attack too, like, you know, they were able to get through a hurricane and get themselves settled after the hurricane, right? Not still being that. That's another thing. I would be in flight or fight mode for weeks at a time. So
Yeah.
you can imagine if you're about to fight somebody and the adrenaline you're feeling, it's just constantly running.
Can't
But
imagine. It's scary. You
yeah,
know what? This is a shared story. Here's what it is. It's a big therapy couch, right?
yeah,
Because and no, it's real. Because
yeah,
talk is great. I'm
yeah,
hoping that if somebody hears this, well, first of all, I hope that somebody hears this.
yeah.
But I hope that somebody hears this and they like, you know what? I feel the same way. Or, honey, I just heard people talk about something and this is what we're going through. So
Hmm.
that's what the hope is of shared stories is
Yeah.
to make people feel better, even if they don't know that they're not feeling great.
I'm going to share this one last thing with you, Todd.
Okay,
Where I'm
you got
at
it.
right now. We're in the honest nest. You ever watch Old School with Will Ferrell?
Oh, love it. Yep.
Oh, did you see when he was talking with the psychologist or I don't know if I'm therapist with him and his wife? And she's like, "Are we in the honest nest?" And he starts talking about a waitress's
Oh,
undergarments, and the wife is just looking at him like, "Really, motherfucker?" Like,
yeah.
but since we're in the honest nest, I got to tell you where I'm at right now, man. And I feel like I'm cleaning parts of my inner being that have been damaged
Okay.
throughout the years. And I'm not here to blame anybody. I'm just saying they're damaged. And
Yep.
I feel like I've cleaned out a lot of the easy stuff. Now I'm into the hard stuff, man, where it's concreted thick.
Okay.
Meaning stop judging people. Um so I don't have to look at myself. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm at right now. And I'm breaking that out. And where I'm saying, Jose, don't judge people, understand them. Get their story, get to share their story, share yours, be open minded. And that's what I'm going through right now. And it's hard to do. You know, I've always been running from my most inner demons and inner gifts.
Yeah.
Meaning
Inner
that,
gifts. Yep.
yeah, inner gifts, meaning that I'm using excuses to hold that back, and I'm cleaning that up right now, and hence it's like that's why we're launching Shared Story. I've been talking to you for about it a while. It's like, fuck, we got to get this out here, man. It's now or never. I don't like what's going on, and I feel like we are going to be the number one podcast in the world, and it's going to be based out of love. And that's what's going to drive this, man. The love for humanity, the love for each other, love for ourselves, number one. And man, I can't think about anybody else I could do this with other than
Well,
Todd
I'm
Civin, who the
I'm
man is
I'm
always given.
honored to be sitting in this chair. I'm going to take it full circle so we can close.
Yes.
You think what Dick and Rick Hoyt did was easy?
No.
Okay.
No.
So why
No.
should this be any different? Healing ourselves or you know, running our own marathon, I guess to be symbolic. Life ain't easy.
Yeah.
Life is not easy. But the motto, yes you can, is perfect here. I wear the tattoo on my back that says yes you can because of what the Hoyts did for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And basically, you know, as I said earlier, if you put your mind to anything, yes, you can do it. Now, that's not quite true. I've tried to dunk a basketball more times than I can. I can't do it. I tried to put toothpaste back in the tube. I can't do it. But for the most part, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
And
And I
so that's what we're doing here.
yeah.
Even if nobody listens and we help each other, you and I help each other, isn't that good enough? Our 1 hour free therapy session.
Absolutely. And everybody, I just want to thank you guys. Well, Todd, I want to thank you. Todd's is the co-host for Shared Story podcast. Todd Civins from Boston. Are you from Boston?
Not really. We say Boston because no one knows where Spencer is.
Spencer. Okay,
Spencer.
but yeah,
Spencer,
Spencer.
Mass.
You got
no
you got the
As.
accent. Yeah, yeah.
No As
So,
in Spencer.
yeah, and myself, Jose, and we believe everybody has a story to tell and someone who needs to hear it. So we look forward to sharing your story one day. You can go to our website, sharedstory.org, and
No,
just
.com.
register. Yeah, sharedstory.com. Thank you for correcting me.
My
and you can
pleasure.
register to share your story. We would love to collect stories, and in the next week or two, we're going to have some inspirational guests sharing their stories and hopefully lifting people throughout the world. So thank you so much for your time, Todd. Love you, man.
Love you.
And I look forward to taking this journey with you. Are we allowed to say that as men? Are we allowed to say that as men?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay, because
Yes.
yeah, all right. Love
I'll
you,
say
man.
this: I won't sleep with you, but I do love you.
I heard you. We're still soulmates, though, Todd. We're
Yes.
still
Oh,
soulmates, man.
absolutely.
But hey, I fell in love with you at the first talk. All
That
right,
that
you
works
take
for
care,
me.
Todd. All
Thanks,
right,
bud.
have a great night. Bye bye.
Ciao.